What if tonight's recitation of Surah Al Ikhlas changes something inside you? Ibn Arabi said, "Ikhlas is the door only the sincere can open. Behind it lies peace, light, and love beyond understanding." Whisper it tonight and watch how the one you call begins to answer from within. When night falls, the noise of the world begins to fade, streets empty, voices quiet, and what's left is the soft hum of your own breath, the sound of a heart that has carried the weight of another long day. In this silence, something sacred begins to stir. It is in these hours that the heart becomes most honest, and the tongue, if guided rightly, begins to remember. Now, imagine yourself sitting alone, perhaps on the corner of your bed or beside a dim lamp, whispering words you've known all your life. Kul huwa Allahu ahad. You have said them 1,000 times, before sleep, during prayer, in moments of fear. But pause for a moment. Have you ever truly heard what you were saying? Most of us recite from habit, not presence. We rush through verses seeking protection, reward, forgiveness. Yet beneath every verse lies a doorway, and most of us stand before it without ever stepping in. Ibn Arabi once said, "Every verse of the Qur'an is a mirror. It shows you only what your heart brings to it. If you recite in distraction, it will reflect distraction. But if you recite with need, it will open a path to the one who never turns away." Tonight, if you pick up this chapter again, don't rush. Don't treat it as a shield or a ritual. Treat it as a meeting. Let every syllable pass through your chest like light searching for a way in. For this is the secret of Surah Al Ikhlas. It does not transform the one who speaks. It transforms the one who listens. Ask yourself gently, what does your heart hear when your tongue says Ahad, the only one? Is it a sound you know or a truth you've yet to touch? Could it be that every time you recited, the one you called upon was whispering back? There's an old saying among the Sufis, when you call upon him, it is because he has already called you. In that moment of remembrance, something eternal begins to unfold. For the one who recites Surah Al Ikhlas with presence is not merely repeating a verse. They are answering a call that began before time. Consider the quiet power of this act. No one else may see it, no one may hear it. Yet in that stillness, something vast moves within you. It's not a miracle in the sky, nor a sudden change in fate. It's the subtle awakening of a soul realizing it has never been alone. So tonight, when you whisper these words, let your heart listen more than your tongue speaks. Because sometimes, the prayer that changes your life isn't the one you send up. It's the one that echoes back. By the end of this journey, you may discover that the one you've been calling was never distant, that every recitation you've ever uttered was simply a reminder you are not apart, you are returning. And if you stay with me through these moments, we will walk together through that door Ibn Arabi spoke of, the door that opens not in the sky, but in the depths of your own heart. Tonight, when you recite Surah Al Ikhlas with awareness, you may just realize the one you seek has already been listening. When you begin to recite Surah Al Ikhlas with presence, something remarkable starts to unfold, not outside of you, but within. You may feel as though nothing has changed. The same room, the same silence, the same verse you've known since childhood. But deep inside, an invisible key begins to turn. For this chapter, Ibn Arabi says, is not merely sound. It is a doorway. And every doorway needs a heart willing to walk through. Most people recite Al Ikhlas as protection, a charm for safety, a quick remembrance before sleep. And there is beauty in that. Yet Ibn Arabi reminds us, Ikhlas is when the servant forgets himself and sees only God. When the I fades, when the self loosens its grip, the heart begins to awaken. And in that awakening, a hidden door opens, not a door of words, but of perception. Think of it this way. When you recite these verses from habit, your lips move, but your heart stays still. The sound leaves you, but it does not change you. It's like knocking on a door without waiting for an answer. But when you recite with sincerity, when every breath carries need, love, and longing, you are not just speaking. You are standing before a gate that opens inward. And the moment that gate opens, you realize something profound. It was never God who was distant. It was your attention that had wandered. He was always near, closer than the breath you just took, closer than the pulse beneath your skin. Imagine a child lost in a crowded market. In panic, the child calls out for his father. Tears blur his eyes and his voice trembles. Then suddenly, a warm hand clasps his. He looks up, and his father has been there all along, walking behind him. That's what happens when you recite with the heart. You call out and realize you were never alone. Ibn Arabi says that every sincere act carries within it a secret light. When you recite Surah Al Ikhlas with true awareness, that light begins to rise from within you. It's not visible to the eye. It's the quiet calm that settles over your chest, the sudden easing of a burden you didn't know you were carrying. But sincerity cannot be forced. It grows when you stop reciting for reward and start reciting for reunion. When you let go of the thought, I am praying, and simply become the prayer itself. That is when Ikhlas, true purity, reveals its face. Ask yourself gently, when was the last time you recited not to seek something, but to see something? To see who you are before the one who created you. When you whisper, Kul huwa Allahu ahad tonight, could you allow each word to strike the walls of your heart until they echo softly, not outward, but inward? For the Sufis, every verse is both a path and a mirror. When you walk this path with awareness, you see your reflection transforming. The anxieties that once filled your chest begin to loosen. The endless comparisons, the restless searching, they start to quiet down, because you begin to understand the one you are calling through these words is the same one who gave you the voice to call in the first place. So tonight, don't chase meaning with your mind. Let the meaning reveal itself through silence. Recite slowly. Let each syllable open a small window in your heart. And as you do, remember Ibn Arabi's secret. The true recitation is not the sound leaving your lips, but the stillness that follows after. Because in that stillness, the door opens. And when the door opens, light enters. And once that light enters, your life and your way of seeing will never be the same again. When your lips whisper, Kul huwa Allahu ahad, say, He is Allah, the only. You may think you're stating a belief, but in truth, you're making a declaration that reshapes your entire existence. Ibn Arabi explains that ahad does not mean one. It means only. For when you say one, you can still imagine a second beside it. But when you say only, there is no room left for anything else. This small shift in language holds a vast secret. It means that everything you cling to, wealth, love, recognition, safety, begins to lose its grip when your heart truly recites ahad. Because ahad is the moment the heart remembers. There is no second refuge, no rival comfort, no alternate source. Most of us live divided. One part of the heart turns to God, the other to the world. We trust in effort, in people, in outcomes, and only when all else fails do we turn back to the one. But every time you whisper ahad, you're being invited to return, to peel back those attachments one by one until only love remains. Imagine your heart as a cup. When it's filled with fears, desires, and attachments, there's no space left for divine light. But the moment you pour those out, even a little, you'll notice something. A calm begins to descend. A stillness that feels like home. That's the echo of ahad resounding within you. Ibn Arabi calls this verse the sword of unity, sharp, precise, and liberating. It cuts through illusion. It shatters every idol hidden in the heart. Idols of self, of control, of dependence. Because the truth is, even when you say, I rely on God, often a small corner of your heart still relies on something else. A person, an outcome, a plan. And when that plan breaks, you feel broken too. But ahad reminds you, the one who provides is not the job. The one who comforts is not the friend. The one who heals is not time. It is He, always He, beyond all intermediaries. Have you ever felt the sting of losing something you thought you could not live without? Maybe it was a person, a dream, a sense of security. In that moment, pain floods in because the heart feels empty. But look deeper. That emptiness is not absence, it's invitation. The space left behind is where ahad wishes to enter. The removal is mercy in disguise, clearing the way for the only to dwell where many once competed. Ibn Arabi says that the servant who truly understands ahad ends all searching. For they realize that every path they've walked, every longing, every loss, was leading them back to this point. To this a single, unbreakable truth: there is no other. When this understanding reaches the heart, fear begins to dissolve. Because what can you fear when all things are held by the one? What can you lose when the one you love never departs? So tonight, as you recite Kul Huwa Allahu Ahad, don't rush past it. Let it echo. Let it peel back the layers of your heart. Say it slowly, not as repetition, but as revelation. Whisper it until the words stop being yours, until they become His, spoken through you. Whisper it until every false refuge in your life begins to fade. Because when the heart finally understands ahad, when it realizes that nothing else truly exists, the search ends, the fear ends, and in its place, a peace dawns that no storm can shake. For in that moment, the reciter disappears, and only the one remains. After ahad comes a verse that touches the deepest human need: Allahu As-Samad, Allah, the eternal refuge. In these two words lies the cure for every restlessness that keeps your soul awake at night. Ibn Arabi said, As-Samad is the one who needs nothing, yet all things are in need of Him. To understand this verse is to understand why every desire, every chase, and every disappointment in your life exists, to lead you back to the only one who never fails you. Every heart is searching for shelter. Some look for it in wealth, some in people, some in the illusion of control. But if you've ever found yourself saying, I can't do this anymore, or why do I feel so empty even when I have everything? That is your soul quietly reminding you that it was not built to lean on what breaks. You are not weak. You are simply built for a strength that does not collapse. As-Samad is that strength. It is the unshakable center that holds you when everything else trembles. When you turn to Him, not in panic, not as last resort, but in trust. You begin to discover a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. You realize you were never meant to carry everything alone. Imagine your life as a storm at sea. Waves of uncertainty rise, winds of fear howl. You clutch the sides of a small boat, your plans, your savings, your loved ones, but the more you cling, the more the storm tosses you. And then you hear the whisper of this verse, Allahu As-Samad, the one who does not sway, the one who is not overwhelmed, the one who simply is. Ibn Arabi teaches that every soul carries a hidden longing, not for success, not for praise, but for stability. And the heart only finds it when it rests upon what is eternal. Everything else is scaffolding, temporary supports that crumble when life shakes. But As-Samad stands unmoved. Reflect for a moment. How many times have you felt betrayed by something you trusted? A promise, a friendship, your own plans. Each time, a piece of your heart learns a hard truth. That dependence on the temporary breeds disappointment. Yet in every heartbreak, God is gently guiding you back to this verse. Rely on me. I do not break. The prophet once said that whoever recites Surah Al Ikhlas has affirmed God's unity with their heart. To say As-Samad is to remember that no one and nothing else sustains you. Your sleep, your breath, your beating heart, all depend on Him. Every comfort you have ever known was a reflection of His mercy, not a possession you earned. Ask yourself, when you feel lost, where does your heart run first? To another person, to a distraction, or to the one who has been waiting for your return? Because As-Samad is not simply a name you say. It is a refuge you enter. It's the stillness that meets you when you finally stop fighting the current. It's the quiet reminder that even in your loneliest moments, you are leaning against the everlasting. So tonight, when you recite Allahu As-Samad, pause and let those words sink into you. Feel the truth behind them. You are held. You are provided for. You are not forgotten. In every fear, in every emptiness, in every unanswered question, this verse is the whisper that steadies the trembling soul. You were never meant to depend on anything but me. And when that realization takes root, you begin to see every collapse was not punishment, but mercy. Every loss was not absence, but redirection. Every tear was a path leading you home to As-Samad, the refuge that has always been waiting. When the heart whispers, Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad, He does not beget, nor was He begotten. The words may sound distant, abstract, theological, but beneath them lies a medicine for one of the deepest wounds a soul can carry, the ache of time, the fear of endings, the grief of loss. Ibn Arabi said that this verse lifts the servant out of the illusion of beginnings and endings and lets them glimpse the timelessness of the divine. Everything in our world is wrapped in birth and death. Every sunrise fades into dusk. Every friendship begins, blossoms, and eventually changes. Every joy you've known carries within it the shadow of impermanence. You might hold someone's hand one day and stand by their grave the next, and in that silent breaking, a question rises. Why must everything I love be taken from me? This verse is the answer whispered back. It reminds you, there is one who is untouched by time, one whose essence does not begin or end, whose love does not fade, whose presence does not age. When you recite Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad, you are declaring that the source of all existence is beyond the rise and fall of days, and if you anchor your heart in Him, you too will taste something eternal. Think of your life as a circle drawn in sand. The tide comes, the line fades, and you feel erased. But behind every wave is an unseen ocean that never ends. You were never just the line. You were always part of the sea. This verse invites you to lift your gaze from the shifting shorelines of your days and remember the vastness behind them. Ibn Arabi teaches that the one who contemplates this verse learns to see loss differently. When something leaves you, a friend, a season, a dream, it is not annihilation, but return. What came from him goes back to him. The form may vanish, but the truth behind it remains. The love that bound you to what you lost was never separate from the love of the one who gave it. Reflect for a moment. How many times have you stood in the ruins of something beautiful, whispering, "It's over"? And yet, in the quiet after your grief, didn't you feel a strange peace begin to emerge, as though something in you was being lifted beyond the story? That's the echo of this verse, a reminder that endings are illusions seen by eyes bound to time. When you lose a day, when your youth slips away, when you bury someone you love, remember this truth. God does not begin, and He does not end. The one who gave you love still holds it. The one who gave you life still sustains it. What appears gone has only shifted form. The Sufis say, when the servant's heart ties itself to the timeless, sorrow learns to kneel. For how can you mourn a sunset when you know the sun never truly disappeared? It only turned to shine on another horizon. So tonight, when you recite Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad, let it wash over the parts of you still mourning what has passed. Each repetition is a balm, teaching the soul to see with eternal eyes. The body grieves, but the heart begins to remember. What belongs to the eternal can never be lost. Time may take what you hold, but not what you are. For you were breathed from the timeless, and to the timeless you will return. When the recitation reaches its final verse, Walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad, there is nothing equal to him. The heart stands at the threshold of purification. Ibn Arabi said, this is the verse that shatters the subtle idols the servant carries unknowingly. For in truth, the idols we worship are not made of stone or gold. They are built quietly, in secret, within the folds of the heart. Every attachment we mistake for permanence, every person or possession we believe our peace depends on. These are the small gods that grow in silence. You may not bow to them, yet they rule you. A word from them can make your spirit tremble. Their absence can make your world feel empty. But this verse, this single truth, is the divine wind that sweeps through and clears them all. Reflect gently. What would remain if everything you depend on were to vanish? Could your heart still stand, unshaken? Or would it crumble because it leaned too heavily on what was never meant to bear its weight? Ibn Arabi writes, when the servant understands that nothing is equal to him, they are freed from comparison, jealousy, and fear. To live in this awareness is to finally breathe without chains. Because as long as your worth depends on what others have, as long as your peace depends on outcomes, you will always be enslaved by what shifts. But this verse, this remembrance, returns you to the axis that never moves. Picture your heart as a mirror. Over time, it gathers dust. The dust of pride, the smudges of desire, the fingerprints of expectation. You begin to see life not as it is, but through a cloudy reflection. Reciting Wa lam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad is like wiping that mirror clean. Each repetition removes another layer of illusion, until the truth shines through. There is nothing and no one beside him. Everything else is reflection, not reality. Have you ever noticed how easily the heart clings to recognition, to being right, to being loved a certain way, and how easily it suffers when those are withdrawn? Each disappointment you felt was not cruelty. It was mercy in disguise. A hand wiping away an attachment that dimmed your vision. A call to remember, the one you truly need has never withheld himself from you. To say there is nothing equal to him is to say nothing else defines me. Not success, not failure, not the gaze of others. You begin to see your life not as a competition, but as a reflection of divine will unfolding uniquely through you. And in that realization, comparison dissolves. Envy loses its grip. Pride fades into gratitude. Ibn Arabi often spoke of the heart as a sanctuary. But for the sanctuary to hold divine presence, it must be emptied of rivals. Every time you whisper this verse with awareness, you are sweeping its floor, lighting its lamp, preparing it for the one who alone is worthy to dwell there. So tonight, let this be more than sound. Let it be surrender. As you whisper, Walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad, imagine the veils of fear lifting one by one. The walls of false reliance crumbling. Feel the weight of comparison slipping from your shoulders. Because in this remembrance lies freedom. The freedom of knowing that nothing equals him, and therefore nothing can imprison you. When the heart reaches this state, peace is no longer a fleeting visitor. It becomes a resident. And you realize that Ikhlas, sincerity, was never about perfection. It was about returning again and again to this final truth. Nothing compares, nothing competes, nothing remains but him. So now, as the night deepens and silence gathers around you, imagine sitting in that stillness, the world asleep, your heart awake. You begin to recite Surah Al Ikhlas again, but this time not as routine, not as ritual, but as revelation. Slowly, deliberately, each word rolling off your tongue like a drop of light falling into a deep well. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu as-samad. And with each verse, the surface of your soul begins to ripple. Ibn Arabi said, every verse you recite with presence becomes an answer from the unseen. When you whisper these words tonight, do not wait for an external sign. The sign will appear within you. Perhaps not as a voice, not as a vision, but as a stillness, settling where chaos once lived. That stillness is your sign. That calm you feel after the final verse, that quiet release from the noise of worry, that is the answer to your call. Have you noticed how the world outside grows quieter at night, and yet your thoughts grow louder? This is why the mystics recited in the hours before dawn, because when the world sleeps, the heart's door opens. What you speak then goes deeper. And when you recite Surah Al Ikhlas in such a moment, something shifts, gently, invisibly, but undeniably. Perhaps tomorrow, nothing outwardly changes. The same problems await, the same people, the same tests. But inside, something begins to move. The anger that once rose quickly now pauses. The worry that used to flood your mind softens into patience. The loneliness you once feared starts to feel like a space where you can finally hear him. This is what happens when you recite with sincerity. It's not about miracles that defy nature. It's about miracles that restore it. A weary heart that suddenly finds peace is as great a sign as any. A mind that stops fighting and begins to trust, that is, transformation. Ibn Arabi describes such moments as tajalli, divine unveiling. The servant does not gain new eyes, but learns to see with light. So tonight, when you recite Al Ikhlas with awareness, pay attention not to what you see, but to how you see. The verse will not change your world, it will change your vision of it, and that perhaps is the greater miracle. Ask yourself, what if every struggle you face is not a wall, but a doorway waiting to open when you recite with presence? What if the calm that descends after as-samad is not just relief, but recognition, the soul remembering its source? There's an old saying, when the servant remembers, the remembered draws near. In truth, he was never far. But through Ikhlas, you begin to feel that nearness, not as theory, but as warmth, as assurance, as a knowing that lies behind every breath. You may notice that your heart feels lighter. The same worries are there, but they no longer rule you. You move through the world as though carried, guided gently from within. This is the unseen answer, the what happens next, that only those who recite with awareness ever discover. Because when you recite Surah Al Ikhlas tonight, you are not sending a message into the dark. You are stepping into it and finding that the darkness was never empty. It was filled with the presence of the one who listens before you even speak. So let these words not just pass through your lips, but settle deep into your being. For the miracle of Ikhlas is not that God hears you, it's that you finally hear Him. And when you do, everything, even silence, becomes remembrance.